Good.
Toronto gave us so much.
Mm-hmm.
At first it didn't feel like, I felt very like, like I was as new to the country as he was. I had family, but I didn't have
Right.
I didn't have a SIN number. I didn't have a social number. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have anything there. I didn't have a driver's
Wow.
license. I didn't have, I literally was starting from
Wow.
as if I was a new immigrant coming in. And because I had a Canadian passport, it made it a lot easier for me to get my SIN number, for me to get a bank account. But it was a process. It was
Right.
a process. To lease an apartment, because we didn't have a credit history there. I didn't have any, so we stayed with my brother, we stayed with family and friends. We had to kind of, beg, borrow, and plead and ask and work with people that like, listen, we'll give you first and last, but that's all we got. We don't have any credit history here. Just promise that we're going to pay rent on time. And we did.
Mm-hmm.
And we made it work.
Wow.
We really made it work.
What a journey, I tell you. Well, then as you work through all of that, then, you don't have you started Saturday Dinette. So launched your first restaurant. Some, good times, some memories, good memories, bad memories. But overall, seemed like that was a spot where people could find some great meals, and you were able to bring who you were to that location.
Yeah, I found myself watching an episode of Bear last night, and it reminded me, not the whole episode, but just a certain moment of it reminded me when I was, how I would, our menu at Saturday Dinette, it was really based on the seasons. And I wanted to create a menu that was rooted in comfort food, but that was also, elevated with just my plating and technique and my desire to cross like cultural diverse foods and eats, and make sure that people understood that what you were eating wasn't just one particular thing. It was being inspired from the many things that inspire me in my life. And like building my menu and designing a menu was one of my most favorite times of the year, because we would be in full season. Like, say, for example, we were serving the winter menu, and we were getting ready for the spring and going into the summer, and having a day, I would shut the restaurant on a day, and it would just be me in the kitchen by myself with a piece of brown paper up and just like a bunch of ingredients. And I would just like, okay, what do I want to make?
Right.
What is inspiring to me? What palette, what do I want to bring together? Whether is it salty, sweet? Is it crunchy? What texture do I want to use this ingredient that I've been reading about? Do I want to bring color to the plate? Saturday Night Dinette's menu is always also really rooted in memories of like my childhood and dreams. I dreamt a lot about food, and those dreams always became a plate on the menu, and people connected with them. People would say, like, I can close my eyes and you're taking me back to when my grandmother made that meatloaf and made me feel like, so it was a really special place. It was on the corner, small spot. Like, at first we had 23 seats, and then we grew to 35 seats.
Wow.
And we had a little record store in the front where people could bring their own records. They can also buy and trade records. They can play records. Every night was a themed night with, Johnny playing mixes. We went between our mixes on our Spotify to, playing records. It was something that I will never forget. It
Absolutely.
was, never to be duplicated, but definitely something that I feel like we could bring to life again somewhere.
Awesome. And then after that was Kit Chocolate that you were getting off the ground.
Yeah. I think growing up in South Florida, what resonates for me was, how do I bring my cultural food and my connection to the Caribbean to a space that brings people in and makes them really feel like you're like you're at like a little bodega. You walk in and there's the steam tables and it's like all the food is there for the day. And it's like really rooted in like workers that are just like coming off the job, or they're halfway, they're at lunch break and they like want to get something hot and good and ready. So that was the whole concept of Kid Chocolate, was to really kind of bring out the Afro-Caribbean roots and flavors and bring that to Leslieville, a little small community in Toronto. That didn't happen due to reasons that, were somewhat similar to what happened with Saturday Dinette, discrepancies with landlords, not as intense. But I think Kid Chocolate for me was also, I was at a breaking point where I needed to kind of step away from working with my partner, my husband.
Right.
We needed some space. If anyone does work with your partner, your loved one, whether it's family or your husband or whoever, I think that there is a point where you have to have some space to come home and it not just be work all the time. And that was a big vision for him. He wanted me to do the food, and I wanted to do something else. And I really wanted to do hotels. I wanted to explore a bit more of like theatrical pop-up concepts. I wanted to do menus that were just written in a poetry format, and to explore food in a way that I hadn't been able to at Saturday Dinette. And here I am. And that's when I left and I went and was the executive chef at the Gladstone Hotel. So.
Right. So, and if you don't mind talking about it a little bit, because it is real talk when you are working with someone in together, right, and making that work. And you share, again, you go into detail about everything. And it was a journey for both of you, just finding that and making that work. And when do you turn it off? When do you not? And just life happening. How do you push through that? How do you find the strength to push through all of that?
I don't know if we always did find the strength to push through it. I think it was just a matter of like, we had to do what we had to do. At this point we had our son. I was at the restaurant pretty much 7 days a week, like 19, 20 hours a day. I was also had a lot of great press. The restaurant had a lot of great press. So I was now not only being at the restaurant, but now I was also being asked to do interviews and to be on TV shows. And my face was the face of Saturday Dinette. And that brought some conflict to me and my partner. He was like, what about me? And, I am an integral part of this development in this place as much as you are. And I'm like, yes, you're absolutely right. And, it's like we didn't necessarily not have the option to push through. I think that we found a way, and I think we used a lot of other things to kind of avoid what was inevitable, which was us having to have an uncomfortable conversation about what was really going on.
Right.
And I think there was a lot of missed opportunities of clear communication. There was many communication breakdowns. There was moments that we just lost faith in each other. And I think we lost faith in what we were doing because we were just trying to keep up with everything, because everybody wanted everything. They wanted me. They wanted the food. They wanted the space. We wanted other spaces. We were like, we have to grow. We have to open another place. It was just like this desire to keep performing and keep going and keep going. And it was like, nowhere in it did someone just say, we can actually say no. We can actually stop. We don't have to do everything. And I think that's something I want everyone to take away from this, is that at every moment that you feel like the anxiety has just gotten so to the point where you can't take it on anymore, and it's just become too much. That's maybe the moment that you might want to ask yourself, is it time to take a step back? Is it time to slow down? Is it time to walk away from this?
Right.
You're not going to be looked down upon. You're not failing. You're not doing anything wrong that someone else hasn't done 100 times and will continue to do, which is to preserve yourself and your sanity and your well-being, and to check in like, my work-life balance was shot. There was no work-life balance.
Yeah.
It was just like, go.
Yeah.
It was one flow. It was one direction. It was one gear. And it was full throttle constantly. And it was just like this anticipation of like, if we don't do it, we might miss something. No, you won't.
Wow. So looking at that Suzanne back then and the Suzanne that we're talking to now, definitely a lot of growth.
Yeah, a lot of growth. I mean, I still don't like to say yet to no to things, but I know the benefits of me saying no and how that opens up a million times more doorways, a million times more paths, a million times more moments to just take back and learn from. You know, like I think I missed a lot of lessons because I just kept repeating the same patterns because I felt like I just had to keep doing it.
Okay.
And I think now, you know, patterns are there for us to learn and to get to perfect them, but patterns are also meant to be broken and to be able to shift and to pivot when necessary, because you can't just go in that same gear. You can't just go in the same direction continuously. It's like you said earlier, life isn't just a straight line.
Right.
You got to know that sometimes it's going to take you off to the right. Sometimes it's going to take you to the left. Sometimes it's going to take you up and down. And you just have to be prepared and willing to kind of stay on it or to stop and just to breathe.
Absolutely. So when did you know you had a book inside of you?
I think I knew I had a book inside of me the moment that I decided that I wanted to become a chef.
Okay.
Because the journey that, and I didn't really know, and I think it was really because while in art school, I was studying to become a director. I wanted to become a director or a director of photography. I loved cameras, but I also loved writing screenplays. So I always loved writing, and I always loved telling a story. And I had written like 2 scripts, 2 shorts, and 1 full feature length while I was in school at the time. Nothing ever came of them, but it was a way for me to really talk through the things that were always, you know, like in my head about conversations that I'd have with friends. And so I think I had always envisioned that how I got to becoming a chef and that journey, I was like, this shit is crazy. Now, when I sat down with my writing partner, Suzanne Hancock, and we decided that we were going to write the book, we thought of it less of a story about my life and more of a cookbook, traditional cookbook. Okay. And so when we pitched to Random, they were like, this is great. We love this cookbook idea, but really what we want is your story. And that I was like, wait, what? Like, and, you know, that part was the scariest part because there were a lot of stories that I didn't want to unfold. I didn't want to talk about. I didn't want to write about. There's a lot in that book that never made it to the book. And it's because we had to find a flow that felt cohesive and made sense to the story. And I remember my editor always said, there's always another book, Suzanne. And I said, what about that story? She's like, we'll get into the next one. And, you know, it was, we were a year behind, you know, COVID really slowed me down to finish the book. You know, 2019 was the year to really kind of get it done. And we were, you know, but the timing was interesting because the book was supposed to come out in 2020. Okay. And because we had the delay on my part, because I was opening another restaurant, it didn't happen. And the book got to come out in 2022. So, wow. You know, it's always serendipitous, and it's always beautiful to have those moments of serendipity where you can connect like, okay, everything does happen for a reason.
Absolutely. And I just love, again, in the book, you know, you talk about your mom and just sharing about her life. And your brother Wayne, as you mentioned, your sister Tanya, and again, just getting real with what you went through. A lot of, just your journey, very personal, very personal. And so, thank you for sharing those moments with us. Like, even if you got more to add, what you have in here is just amazing. But then we got some recipes, right? We got some
Yeah, we
recipes.
got a little bit more
Some
after.
recipes.
Let's give you a little.
Some recipes. What was your family's response? Especially your husband.
I had given him pages as I was writing, because I was like, I need you to be okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he said, I don't need to read it. Okay. I said, you sure? I really want you to. He's like, no. He's like, tell the story that you want to tell. I said, okay. My family, I think they were more, when they to read about my mom and to read about their sister, and the way that we told the story of their sister, I think they were really honored.
Okay.
Because they were really young also. There's the stories of Florida that they didn't know about her because they didn't live with us. Mm-hmm. So I think that for them, they were learning about their sister. They were learning about their niece that they didn't really have much time with. They didn't grow up with me. Right. And I think they felt really just proud to have been a part. My aunt and my uncle both were contributors, major contributors to the book. And, they also saw their great-great-grandmother my great-great-grandmother, their grandmother in the book, because we had so many of the old family photos. And so beautiful. That was so a big connection for them. And then I think when they, just to see the recipes, they were just really taken aback by how we were able to get it all in.
Awesome. And so you are looking to embark on a mini tour coming up because you can never stop promoting a book, right? Because there's always someone new to introduce yourself to, introduce your food and your work to. So I say, you know what, keep promoting 2-3 years from now, because there's so many people that you can reach. And so tell us a little bit about what you have planned coming up.
Yeah, so I've got a few things going on. So next month, or this month, later in the month, I'm going to do a mini book tour in Toronto at a few bookstores that I love. Hopefully, I'm waiting to confirm up, but you can always check me out on my website or Instagram to see where the tour is taking me. But we're looking for about 3 different bookstores right now. We're just in talks with them. We're doing a pop-up at a winery in Niagara. And from there, I am working on another book. Okay. Don't have a release date on that, but that is something I'm super excited about. I have a new writing partner for this book. Okay. And it's not a memoir. It's a traditional cookbook, but it's really celebrating the Caribbean islands and all of the islands and all of the flavors. And it's our homage to, the countries that we know and we grew up loving and going to as kids, but feeling like we don't have a cookbook that really represents the Caribbean islands the way that we know them. Nice. So my writing partner, Keisha Griggs, out of Houston, Texas, she is Trinidadian. And so we are planning this is going to be a longer haul of a book, okay. But we're really excited about the journey to get us through every country in the Caribbean.
Awesome. Wow. And so you are currently in Florida.
Yes.
So made it down. The family made it to Florida.
We made it down to Florida.
And so one day looking to do that restaurant. That was the original plan before getting stopped at the border 10 years or so ago. So that should be very exciting, and being able to have people not just read about your food and prepare it at home, but again, once again get to experience it. So
yeah. And I think the great thing about right now with continuing with pop-ups and the promotion of the books are to be able to give people still an opportunity, especially in the US, because I've been in Canada for so long, and I don't really have such a huge following and name in the United States, but knowing that I have my connections go deep in the US. And I definitely want people to hear the story, to eat my food, to be a part of, a reading and a session that we have with the book. And so just keep your eyes and ears open. As soon as I get a better, idea of the full tour in the U.S., you will know, and you hope to see any and all of you there.
Awesome. Any appearances at food festivals or anything that we can look forward to either this year or any plan for next year?
Yeah, we do have a few. This year, we were able to be a part of the Miami Food and Wine, as well as a conference in Miami called MAP. And we were also invited to the Diaspora, Black Women in Food. I was
an great event.
Awardee for that. And but this year, getting prepared for next year, we're definitely going to be at a few more conferences next year for sure. And I'm looking forward to that. Whether it's headed down to North Carolina, headed up to North Carolina, or headed across over to California. But please keep, checking out the website, as well as checking in with the site here, the community here. I'll keep you posted.
Absolutely.
And I'll let you know what I'm doing to share with your community, because that would be really helpful and great.
So tell us the website. Website and social media where we can connect?
Absolutely. Website is SuzanneBarrFood.com. My first, last, and the word food.com. Social media, you can find me on Instagram. You can also find me on, and it's Suzanne Barr Food on Instagram. For the book, we have our own Instagram page for the book, and it's just my Ackee Tree. And that's really where we're promoting anything related to the book. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, Suzanne Barr. And that's another place that I'm very, very much promoting events and discussions and talks and things of that sort. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. Suzanne, this has been great. I love talking to you. Such a great conversation. And I just love hearing your story and others. So thank you for sharing it once again.
Thank you for the platform. Thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for always making space for myself and the many chefs and writers. And we don't always get a chance to tell our stories, but when we do, it's always wonderful when it's in a safe space that we feel that we can always continue to come back to. So I will come back anytime you
absolutely
always bring it to me. Whenever you're asking, I'm there.
Absolutely. And I look forward to that new book. So, definitely when it's out, we want to be one of the first. So
looking forward to it. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I'm your host, Cherie Williams. This is another great episode of Diaspora Food Stories. And until next time, be well.